Aloha, everyone. Felicia here. Welcome to All Intuitive Conversation. So, I again am excited to be connecting with my next guest, Patty Horton, which is really interesting, you guys, because she is a medium. So, this is going to be interesting to see how this works. Again, she and I have never met before. And so, let's go ahead and add her to the stream. Aloha, Patty.
Hi, how are you? How are you? I'm so excited to be
I
here.
Yes, I am doing well. Thank you so much for coming to this all intuitive conversation. And as I was saying a little bit before, like this is going to be a little different because you are understanding this whole spiritual aspect and all of that. So tell me more. I mean, you're claiming it, like you're putting it out there.
Woo!
You are a medium. So
I am.
tell me your medium story. That's what I want to know.
I got goosebumps when you said that because it's like a window has opened up and an opportunity to teach people has become available in this tiny little window that we have. So I'm really excited to be here. I was 8 years old when I had my first spirit contact with my grandmother in my bedroom. She was in a coffin and she sat up and stretched her arms out to me, and 7 white crosses came from her and flew into my own heart. I thought that I was going to die, and I ran to my mom's room and she told me it was a dream. It was from that moment on I started to be able to predict the weather, and I really became in tune with nature. By the time I was 16, I was watching all the psychics like Sylvia Brown on TV, on Montel Williams, and all of those
Ah.
things. And so by the time I was 18, a friend of mine said, "You have to go sit with this lady. She's the psychic lady." And I'm like, "All right, I'll go sit with her." And when I sat with her, I left that reading and I said, I just think I looked into the mirrored reflection of my own soul, and I need to find out about that because I believe that's what I'm supposed to do. So you see all these books behind me. These books have been
Yes.
with me since I've been 18 years old into the present. And they became my teachers for 8 to 10 years. And then I came in contact with my very first spiritual teacher, my one and only here. I studied with other teachers, but she was my home circle where I grew and began to understand my gifts. And it was from there I began to learn the art of channeling and what she would call going direct, and recognizing that without our bodies, the spirit world doesn't have an avenue or an opportunity
Mm.
to have their presence known in this world, and becoming diligent in meditation and really stepping up to the plate and saying, I'm going to be disciplined because I want to honor you in your world as you honor me in mine. So that's how it worked. And she always said, I used to say, "Jackie, what do I call myself?" And she said, "You are a medium and you are to call yourself nothing else." And so from when she would channel the spirit world. And so I just said, okay. And I honored it, and it grew from there. So yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so let's totally unpack that. Okay. So when you went and told your mom about your grandma coming to visit, and I so am just thinking about what tarot card is that when they're in the coffin and they come out resurrection? That was immediately what popped in my mind. You go and tell her that and she says it's just a dream. So did your mother understand your spiritual giftings?
No, my mom didn't really start. I've been connected for 50 years. I've been working with my gifts for about 39. So
Mhm.
she really didn't start believing in what I did until probably about 5 years ago when she finally accepted me. So my mom raised me Catholic, and I loved my
Mm-mm.
Catholicism. And so for 13 years, I went to church. After that, I said, church isn't for me. There's something bigger out there. And so I stepped away from the church after I did my commitment for my mom. And then I explored the natural world. And so that's where we get to navigate the natural world as a human being and allow all those spiritual influences to make their way and their presence known in our life. So she didn't have any idea. She had a grandmother who they said was a healer, but she told me it was a bad dream, go back to bed. And we never talked about it again. And when she
So was that
reads about it, she doesn't believe. She says, "I still don't remember that," and I think she just blocked it out of her out of her mind because I'm telling your grandma was taking me to, I think I was going to hell. I thought she was going to take me to hell because the church was
Oh.
burning hell into my brain back then,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which has happened to a lot of individuals. You were Catholic, mine was Christianity
Hmm.
background. So with that aspect of it. So was your grandmother, was it her mother that was in the coffin that was visiting you?
Yes, it was my mom's mom. So it would
Okay.
have been my grandma Louise. And so she
Mm-hmm.
was the one who sat up in
Was
the
the
coffin.
healer? Was she the one that was
No,
the
it
healer?
it was her husband's mother, which would have been our her husband's mother, which would have been my mom's grandmother, and so she would have been my
Okay.
great grandmother. So
Okay.
she, yeah, so she had the gift of what they would call taking the overlook off of people. And so people would secretly come to her and she would lay her hands, the story goes, she would lay her hands on people and she would take whatever they had onto herself.
Oh, and then
And
what happened? She would
so
release that.
you know what? I don't know. So it was years later. I'll tell you a story that connects it all. We
Uh-huh.
all went to we all went to Galena. It's a place in Illinois with all of the female cousins and aunts. And my
Mhm.
cousin and myself and my sister, my other cousin went to the basement. And my cousin said, "Patty, we're going to do a séance." And I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "And you're going to run it." And I'm like, "Why am I going to run it?" And this was way back then. I'm like, they're like, "Because you know how." I'm like, "Okay." So I ran the séance, and at the end, I said, "Grandma Petronella, please come to a non-believer in their dream tonight and make your presence known. And before the morning comes, um, you know, we want to know about it. Thank you, Grandma
Mm.
Petronella." So then my cousin went and sat upstairs with my mom. Ooh, I got goosebumps. And she stretched her
I'm
legs out.
already got goosebumps. Like, yes, just telling the story. Yes.
It's 2 in the morning and she's stretched out, and my mom has Laura's feet in her lap. And so my mom dozed off and Laura dozed off, and my mom jerked awake and she goes, "Aunt Tiny, are you okay?" And my mom looks at her and said, "Did you know that my great grandmother, it was her great grandmother, my great grandmother
Mm-hmm.
was a healer?" And she goes, her name was Petronella." And Laura goes, "Why are you saying that to me?" She goes, "Because I just saw her face in a big red box." And my cousin comes downstairs. She goes, She came. And me and my sister slept with the lights on the
Yes.
rest of the night. So yeah, so it works like that. We ask the spirit world to present themselves in ways that aren't harmful, but don't be shocked when they do, because it can be intense like that at times.
Yes. Well, that definitely falls in the concept to my ask, believe, and receive. You ask for it, believe that you're
Mhm.
going to get it, then you're going to receive it. But that is something that a lot of times what you're saying is that people do get scared when they're having these occurrences and these experiences, right? And so
Mhm.
that's why sometimes I think they miss the signs, or the spirit world is like, okay, I'm gonna have this bird fly past you like every single day. So hopefully, you'll get it and it'll connect so you're not fearful of that. But a lot of times that's how they don't connect, because people are scared. But then that's when I say you just clarify, hey, come to me, but make it so it's like, funny or cool, and I'm not,
Right.
afraid,
Right.
with that.
Or they drop coins at your feet, or put a song on the radio, or pop into your brain as a
Yes.
thought, or come into you in a dream and have a visitation with you, and they make their presence known. And it's always, I wish, they'll say to me, my mom used to say this for years, "I wish my mother would appear to me. I wish." And I said, "Mom,
Mm,
you were expecting this human thing to happen, and they're not of human body anymore. They're of light
mm,
body. So the way that they're going to make themselves known to you is through a song or a smell or a feeling or a thought or a
yes.
coin." And so for years and years and years, she just used to be in doubt and doubt and doubt. And then she got really ill just recently, and she had a bad
Mm,
scare with her heart. And she was in the recovery room, and they didn't know if she was going to make it or not. And her mother and her father showed up, and she contacted me a few days later and said, I haven't told anybody, but my mom and my dad showed up in the recovery room, and they were hugging me and comforting me and letting me know that I was going
yeah.
to be okay." So now I'm going to cry because when they push that love through, I want to cry. So,
Hmm.
so that's the
Yeah.
way it
Yeah.
works. Hmm.
So you openly share, and here we are on this open platform of like
Yes.
LinkedIn, and this was one of my callings that they could no longer really allow me to hide. So I hid my abilities for a very long time. And to give you insight, my husband and I have been married 24 years. And so I didn't come out of the spiritual broom closet to him until January of this year, because it was like, okay, you're a female, you're black. Do you want to add another thing, to this? Because there's so much judgment, around all of this. So with your mom and your family and all that, when would you describe your experience as coming out of the spiritual room closet? Like, when did you, like, yeah, this is what I do. This is, public, because it's different, kind of locally. Some people know word of mouth, but when did you decide, yeah, I'm gonna put it on my LinkedIn profile that I'm a medium and this is what I do? Like, when did you come out the spiritual room closet?
I've never been hidden. So I've always
Mm,
found a way to incorporate my spiritual heart into my everyday life. And if I had something to say to somebody, or proclaim something of a spiritual nature, I would just proclaim it
ah,
and then peacefully coexist within that conversation. And so it's funny when you say the spiritual broom closet, because I used to say people are hiding in their spiritual closets, and that's exactly what happens. And I try to teach people, and I always asked, allow my spiritual heart to have a place in my everyday life, because as I move through life and I have one foot on my physical path and I'm doing I worked in construction for 35 years. Try that one out in construction and in the middle of construction fields, and men telling me that you're crazy, and I would laugh, and
yeah,
you do the devil's work, and my pastor's praying for you, and then it would ensue into these conversations. But I never hid my light, because I knew that in order for other people to receive or ignite their own light, we had to be those light bearers in front of them. And so I would
yeah,
say I'm just a light that amplifies the light within you, and they become a mirrored reflection of a piece of you, not a carbon copy, but just a quick reflection, like that woman I sat with at 18 that says
mhm,
there's something more to me. So for me, I've never ever hidden it. I've never denied, just like I won't deny God, right? God,
right,
I am a strong woman of faith, and nobody will ever make me deny or get me to deny my God, because I know God to be so real. The same for my ability as a medium and my comfort
mm,
level with it. And so it's just, everybody's not gonna agree with us. But I've never had
yeah,
people run away from me. Like some people will say, oh, I talked about my spiritual gifts and I've lost all my friends. And
mm-hmm,
so I've never had that happen to me. People will say to me, um, I will talk about things, and they'll be like, "We knew way back when you were a teenager that you had something going on. We knew way
yeah,
back then." And so it wasn't like I was proclaiming it. I just was exuding that piece of light.
yeah. Because
Does
I
that
can
make
relate. Because
sense?
yeah, it does. Because when I quote unquote came out to my husband, he was like, yeah, I already knew that. Like, they have this sense that there's something, different about you, right?
Right.
Um, but it was like, I think that lesson was really more so about me speaking that out and saying yes, because they would jokingly used to call me a witch. They'd be like, oh yeah, we know you're a witch. And coming from, the Christian background, I was like, hello, hi Elizabeth, Liz, thank
Hi,
you for joining
Elizabeth.
us. Yes, welcome. And it was like, no, because I was coming from the Christian background, like, no, no, I'm not that, and just all that comes with that. Then it kind of transitioned to, I wouldn't really say anything, just like whatever. And then it finally flowed to, I'm not a witch, but then it's this. But I had to go through those steps, because how I was just, raised and integrated, it's like you have to be, perfect, straight A's, doing all these. And I came in the business world, and that was not something that was really talked about or seen,
Hmm.
there. And then it became, I'd love to hear about your finding the coach and the teacher aspect of it, because now it's interesting that when you talk about what would you call yourself as a medium, was that my experience is that I wasn't like deep. I'm not deep in like one particular area. So to give you an example, like Teresa Caputo, who
Hmm.
does the Long Island medium, and
Right.
how she specializes in talking to the dead. This is like, mine doesn't show up like that. Like if I'm
Right.
talking to someone and if someone happens to come in, I remember the first time it happened to me, it was kind of like, oh, but that's not like my regular thing. somebody else, I'm just talking to them and it asks them a question and and this and help them to lead to that. It's that. Maybe someone else, and that may be a song or a video. Someone else, it may be, okay, let's do cards and we're doing that. So I was experiencing like imposter syndrome because it was so varied that it was like, maybe, no, maybe this isn't a real thing until you have to figure out what your I just eventually just let it flow and just was like, okay, whatever comes up at that moment, we'll go with that. So for you deciding on the medium, does your abilities are they varied as well, or do you kind of have like a niche or a specialty?
Well, mediumship is multifaceted. You know, everybody
Yeah.
wants to say the only person that's a medium is a Teresa Caputo, who all she does is talk to the dead, right? Do we only think
Hmm.
that the dead are the only ones that live in the spirit world? We have the ascended master teachers. We have Jesus, who, you know, I channeled, I wrote a
Yes.
book. We
Oh.
have, you know, I had the voice of God come to me and speak into my ear and give me a mantra when I was terminally ill and told that I would never be well again, and helped to heal me in 5 weeks when I made a deal with him. You know, the spirit world is so big and mediumship is so multifaceted like a diamond. And depending on how the diamond's cut and where the light is hitting, that aspect of your mediumship might ignite during that reading, when at another time the light comes through the backside of that diamond. And so another area of your mediumship is ignited. You know, I always
Mm,
say the spirit world is here to serve your greatest good and highest joy during the time of this reading. So it's not, and if
yes.
those who have something to say that you have known in the living world make their presence known, will allow their voices to be heard. But I allow both worlds to collide at once, because it's not my place to shut one off just so that another can be amplified. And that's the way, just like you, I let it flow. I don't
Mm,
put conditions on it, because mediumship has been put in a box. And my team, my counsel has always said, it's time to blur the lines, because people need
yes.
to color outside of the lines so that our voices can be heard. Because you have to remember, back in the day, Jesus was a mystic, right?
Hmm.
And the disciples were prophets, and so everybody was prophesying the voice of God. And what did he do? He taught people how to meditate so that they can hear the voice of God and those in the spirit
Yes.
world from within themselves, so that they could take the work and make it their own, and then become that platform or that ministry for others to drink from, and then make, and as their cup overflows, they take it out into the world and they share what they learned from the priest, the pastor, the guru, and they begin to make it their own, because it begins to resonate with their internal truth.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
so I didn't know you had written a book channeled
I
by
did.
Jesus. Do
I
tell. Tell
did.
more
I
about
did.
this.
Here it is. It's called I Am the Light. And then my
Yes.
author name is Patricia Horton, and it's the wisdom of Jesus in the 21st century. So this book is a channeled book of wisdom. And so, and applied to your everyday life, we learn from the teachings of Christ. So this book is a teacher. It teaches you about hope, faith, prayer. There's channeled wisdom from the Christ in here. In 2013 is when he started actually speaking to me. He was showing up
Mm.
and giving me
Mhm.
symbolism and visions. But it wasn't until 2013 when he showed up and I said, "Why are you here?" And he said, "Because you asked me to be."
Mm.
And so it was from that moment on. And someone had said to me, "Can you come out and teach us about the Christ light?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, okay." So I got a class together, and I went and gave a lecture. And I got in my car, and my counsel says, "It's time." And I said, "It's time for what?" "It's time to put into writing what has been given to you, so that the wisdom can be shared with those who are looking for what it is you have to offer. What we have gifted to you is not just for you, it's for the
Mm.
masses." And
Indeed.
so yeah, so
So okay, so because I'm practical, like I said, I can go have a whole different conversation with you about this. So, what does your channeling like look like? What? How does that
okay.
work for you?
So when I first started channeling, I studied in a book, and so the channeling began when I began writing. So I would sit in meditation, and I would write down what I would get in the meditative state, and then little bits of wisdom would come in, or I would be inspired to write something, and I'd write it down, and I'd be like, That's crazy. I didn't write that. Where did I make that up from, right? And so
Okay.
I just stayed with it. And then Jackie was the one who taught everyone who sat in her circle the beauty of going direct. And so that's what you do when you do your readings. You're going direct. You're going direct to your team. Your team is pushing information and wisdom through you, and you are gifting it to the sitter because the sitter is open to receive what it is you have to give. So that's the way
Right.
that the channel works for so many of us. And then it was in 1993 when I sat before my first trance medium, and I said to Jackie, I want that's so cool. I'd love to do that someday. And I never thought about it again. And it was in 2013 when I began, that's when Jesus started showing up. I began studying the art of trance mediumship. And then I sat and utilized trance healing. And then I do full trance communication. So my channeling went from writing in a book,
I'm about to
listening,
say
and
writing. Okay.
writing and speaking. Like in a reading, all of a sudden something will come from me and someone will go, can you say that again? And I'm like, if you didn't capture it, I can't, because it wasn't of me, it was through me. It was, it wasn't from me, it was through me.
Let me
So
let me,
that's how it works.
so yeah, so with that piece of it, yes, I just want to put a pin on that note because I had a friend contact me back, and like I had gave her channeled some intuitive feedback, and she called me and she was like, um I was, busy doing different things, and I had wrote it down, lost the paper. Do you remember what you said? And I was like, um, not.
No.
Let me see if I can think about it, because that's what people understand. And I learned that initially because I used to be a sign language interpreter at my church.
I love that.
And yeah, but that's where I didn't. And again, I'm in church, so this is not talking about mediumship or anything. So I didn't know any of this vocabulary. So it wasn't until like now I realized what was happening was that my experience, I always used to describe it as I'm signing a song, and people be like, "Oh yeah, I saw you. I sit here," and I'm like, I don't. It's just like this little blurb. Sometimes I don't really see you. I couldn't tell you exactly what I signed or said, but that's when I realized, oh, that was when my spirit team and Emmanuel's, I like to call him, was channeling through me, because I didn't have a clue that I was doing that. They'd be like, "Oh, that was." I said, "It
You know
wasn't
why?
me."
You know
Yeah,
why? Because you completely surrendered and you had no control of what
yeah.
was going on. And so
Mm-mm.
when the person completely surrenders and we give ourselves fully and we let that mind energy of the spirit world blend with the mind energy of the medium or the sign language person, we begin to allow the full impact of that experience be shown to those around us. So it was a
Yeah.
place where you let your vulnerability be seen by the masses, and what a beautiful way for it to happen. So to channel that way is like what someone would do in trance. When you're in a trance, you're vulnerable and you just allow the spirit world to utilize your body and your voice and your mind to communicate information from their world and our world, but they use our bodies to do it, and our voices and our
Mhm.
wisdom and our love and our heart. So I love
Yeah.
that. That is so cool. That is so cool. And what do you think that priest is doing up there when he's in church, right?
The
When
chat.
he's in the spirit,
This
he's
and they're
talking.
talking about shouting, and they're doing all these different things in tongues. But the perception is that's something that's only reserved for the pastors or the preachers, but that's what you're, experiencing in that aspect of it. And yes, Liz, you're learning something new. Not everyone knows about that. But yeah, when I, going as Felicia signing off. But that's when I realized, oh, that's what I was doing, because I never really had a desire to become a sign language as a career or anything like that. I said I only do it in church, and that's pretty much,
Remember,
it. Yeah, it's like that's,
when there are
just
more one gathered in my name, I am in the midst of you, right?
yes,
And
yes.
so, and the spirit world is loving and giving and kind. And anybody who sits before you and makes you feel fearful or afraid is someone that you should say thank you, but no thank you, and move on, because they're giving you an unauthentic experience, because the spirit
Mm,
world does not come here to harm. They come here to serve humanity in a way
right.
so that we can grow and evolve and come together as a collective. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I love that you were about your experience as well. That it started off as writing because the what is it? Automatic. I've done that as well. It's like you're just flowing and writing, but then you
Mm-hmm.
said then it goes into the verbalization and it shows up differently. So there's even a continuous growth pattern of how your spiritual gifts, show up. But when you
Mm-hmm.
were talking about your teacher,
Mm-hmm.
did she just appear to you? I understand you said her name is Jackie. Did she just like
No.
how did because that's one of the things
Okay.
like when you're starting on this journey and let's just say a lot of people that even have abilities, they're not public about it because of the fear and the judgments and all things that come with that. How did your how did Jackie or your teacher come to you?
I was working for TW Edmeyer, and the owner of the company said, "Hey, I'm going to meditation circle. Would you like to come?" I'm like, "Okay." And she said, "Okay, meet me here, and I'll take you over there." So when we're driving in her car, she starts talking to me about Jackie, and she tells me that Jackie is this lady who is a medium, and she says all these beautiful things. So she looks at me. She goes, "Well, what color do you think your aura is?" And I said, "Oh, my aura is silver and blue. I know what color my aura is." And she goes, "Well,
Mm,
who do you think your spirit guide is?" I said, "Well, my spirit guide is the Blessed Mother, because she comes to me and she tells me things and things happen, and she's the one who's with me." And so this was before Jesus really started presenting himself. So I get to Jackie's house, and she gives everyone a hug. And so I'm sitting on the other side of the table. There's a wall here, and then she's sitting on the other side of the room, and she's just staring at me. And Tanya's sitting way over there, Tanya and Kelly.
mhm.
And I'm like, why is this woman staring at me? I'm like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden she starts crying. So I'm like, oh my
Mm,
God, this woman's staring at me. She's crying. She goes, "I'm sorry, honey, but I have to tell you, you have the most beautiful aura, and it's popping of silvers and blues." And she goes, and the Blessed Mother, who she
yes.
overlays
Yes.
herself over you, and she's been with you your whole lifetime, and she will walk with you this whole entire lifetime. And Tanya's way over there. Now we came in together. She goes, "I didn't tell her a thing." And it was like, and so I sat in Jackie's circle, and she taught me about experiencing spirit and feeling spirit and
Mm,
allowing spirit to manifest itself through me and then everybody in the circle. And she would sit and give us all a lesson and a guided meditation. And so that's how I grew in a circle of people who we could share experiences with. And we met every Wednesday,
yeah.
every Wednesday. And for 26 years, I sat in this woman's circle. And regardless if I was already professionally doing my work, you always gravitate back towards that home teacher, that light, that person who nurtured and loved and cared for you and and inspired you to, be that light for
Yeah.
others. So,
So being that light for others, tell me
mhm.
about do you have a coaching practice, your business, you doing this full time? How do you serve now?
Well, I serve by doing, I'll channel writings and I'll put pieces up. And so that's been my practice for many, 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 many years. I
Okay.
do readings for people. I do mentorship programs. So people will answer questions, and then the mentorship program will be created around their unique abilities with the help of my spirit team. I teach people how to connect, and I do demonstrations and public appearances, and I just help to ignite the light within others. I mean, it's just nothing like it's not like it's like ABCDEFG. You know what I mean? It's like somebody could come to you and they could be sitting at the letter A. They think they're at the letter A, but they don't realize they're already at the letter G because they're experiencing
Right.
what the M and the M's are experiencing. You know what I mean? And it's just getting them to recognize themselves. So I like to say I educate the spiritually curious. So
Mm,
I teach them how to, use what I soul cards. They're an oracle card. And I teach them how to go direct and just like Jackie did, and allow yourself to trust the information that comes to you and follow a path that's for you. Not necessarily what my path is. You might want pieces of my path, but how does it fit into your own life, and what were you born to do?
yes. I am loving that. And I'm already resonating with you because from before. Just anyway. But the fact that you use the word spirit team, that's what I use as well. Like I have a whole team
Yay.
of spirit, and like there are people, as I say, that it changes seats. There are some
Yes, you
consistent
know
ones,
what?
but hmm,
When I'm reading, if you notice when you're reading, I'll have different energies that come through me. And
yeah.
sometimes someone will get what I call a spiritual spanking and they'll be like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, ooh. At other times they'll get the one who's giving them all the poetry and all of these things. So I know my team by energy. Right. And so
Yes.
you probably know your team by energy. And there was one more thing I wanted to add that you had said earlier: ask, believe,
Hmm.
and receive.
Hmm.
Jackie always taught us ask, believe, and release to receive.
See, that falls in my R, which is the relax, relate, and release. That's where my release falls into that.
Because let go of that balloon. Oh no, right? Let go of that balloon. But yes, there's
Yes.
just that's the way that it works.
Uh, well,
It's simple. It's a simple path. If anybody tries to muck it up or make it complicated, then they're really not teaching you from a place of wanting you to grow. People are teaching you from a place of trying to hold you back. Because if somebody makes it
mm,
complicated and tries to hold things back from you, then they're not really standing in the authenticity of their purposeful moment during that time. So any teacher that makes it feel like it's out of reach for you, but only there for them, there's a lesson to be learned from sitting with that teacher, but there's also something for you to say, this isn't the teacher for me, when you're ready to realize that.
well, it's something that you said when you were talking about that you can go direct that yourself. And see,
Yes.
there are teachers that make you feel as though like I'm definitely not one of those to where you have to depend on me all the time. I'm more of, as I say, if you go back to the Wiz, the show, the Mrs. North, is that she comes in, you're in Oz. Dorothy is like, where am I at? What am I doing? I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna tell you where your shoes are, where you're at, show you where the path is, and then let you go forth. But I don't have to be there on every single step of the way, like with you. It's just wanting you to feel comfortable, like, yes, this is a good place, but you got to begin your journey of self discovery and figuring out all the stuff that you have, within you. But yeah, there are some coaches that you get that energy, feel like you have to be dependent on me. Like you have to come to me. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, that's disempowering. We're all have a direct line and connection. It's just if you're taking the time to learn more about that and make that connection stronger. And as they say, as your light or your channel
Mm-hmm.
widens, they'll give you more and more. Like, okay, more and more will come. And we'll
Right.
just continue to, expand. But there are some that, want to limit and make it to where like you have to come to me for the sessions. And I'm like,
Right. I'm not a
no.
crutch. I'm not a crutch for you to lean upon.
Mm-mm.
If you have to lean upon me, then I'm not serving you because I'm not allowing you
Mm-mm.
to stand within your
To,
own
right.
authentic
To
light and
stand on your
power.
own.
Right?
Exactly.
Here's the
Exactly.
doorway, and you get to turn the knob and you get to walk across the threshold. I'll lead you to the doorway and I'll help you to see what's beyond the doorway, but you have to be brave enough to cross that threshold because the experience beyond that doorway is individual to you. And so even though
Yes.
we might sit in a circle and all be of like energy, we're all individual lights sitting within a room of many. And I like to call us individual Christmas trees, right? And so some are brighter than others and like to have more ornaments, or some might just like to have a
Yes.
simple strand of garland. But it doesn't mean that the simple strand of garland is any dimmer than the tree illuminated in all the light. They're just presenting it in a way that's individual to them, and that's okay,
Yes.
right?
Yes, for sure. Okay, look. So I want us to
Yes,
do a swap. Do you so like you have cards
sure.
or reading anything that we can pull for each other and see what we co-create with
Sure. I got here. I'm gonna. Where is it? Hold on. Let me. Sorry if my back's to you. I
Oh,
know
you're
they were here.
fine.
I know that they were here. I saw them down here earlier. Where did you go, my little beauties? Oh,
Like I said, this is look, y'all, this is a totally different experience. You
it's
get
fun, right?
two. Yes.
All right, I'm going to
Because
actually use these today. This was a gift given to me by the I have her deck soul cards. And so I've been
yes.
working with Deborah's decks forever. This is a brand new deck she gifted out. And so I am going to I'll do a card from here. How about that?
Yes, great. All right. And I am using the deck that I created, the Live Smart Modern Women's Oracle deck.
Oh.
Um So just for the energy vibe. So is there anything that's on your mind? Like I said, and this is totally different when you're talking to a whole other medium.
I
Although,
always
as I said,
say,
that had like three that came out.
is there,
Uh-huh.
is there any, thing significant that the spirit world wants me to hear? Sometimes I just like to allow them to have their voices heard, and a universal message is always a wonderful thing.
Yes. Okay. This keeps coming up a lot. And so right away, like three came out. Don't see. Seems like there's a travel and relaxation theme coming through yours. So like the very first one that came through was talking about the first chakra,
Mm-hmm.
but then connected to the family, which I'm getting this whole message about the home. And then the third one, like I said, these all flipped over right away, the fifth chakra and the throat. But then came up about relaxing and like the wanderlust. So when's the last time you took a trip?
Well, a trip for pleasure, it's been quite a while.
Uh-huh.
It's been
Uh-huh.
quite a while. The trips have just been to visit my mom back home, and so there hasn't been any real pleasure trips, and probably a good 3 years, maybe.
Mm, it's
It's long
time.
overdue.
Yeah, it's time. Like that's the thing. And it's interesting. A lot of the guests that I've had is like the same thing about relaxation and resting and not work and not knowing how to rest. And it's interesting because I think I'm finding that more common with people that are on LinkedIn because they're usually about, working and their careers and all that, but not really just taking the time to just chill and relax. But that the message that kind of came through clear for me is take your trip, relax, find something to spend, the time, the family with. Yeah. So,
Okay, so
mm-hmm.
thank you for that. Thank you for that.
You're
So
so welcome.
this is the card from the Portals of Presence that I drew from you. Right?
Oh,
Pretty intense, right? Pretty
it is.
intense,
Do
right?
you more?
And so it's really funny because it's showing me the tangible connection to the physical world, and how everybody's being bombarded by internet and telephone and computer and television and all of these things, and trying to get their digital messages into everybody's head, right? And so there's all of this stuff, and then there you are in the middle of all of the chaos and the sea of chaos with this bright, beautiful light, who are trying to teach people how to find their center and be calm in the storm. As they become calm in the storm, you're able to guide them through all of this chaos, because what happens is, in the Tao, right, we learn when we step into a mud puddle and we keep on moving through it until we stand still and let the water settle, we'll never see clarity in the midst of chaos. And so what you're teaching people through your work and through your endeavors is how to see clarity in the midst of this chaos, which we call the world today. So symbolically, it would be the water and the muddy water at the feet, and getting people to slow down and take a different look at who they are on the inside, instead of focusing so much about these external things. What is somebody going to think about me? Or I can't do that, or this isn't for me, or only you can do that, not me, or you're expecting a lot out of me, or the news said this, or this one said that. And so really getting people to use the gift of, they're saying, discernment, because discernment is what is going to guide the world and the people of this world through the chaos of these days. But for you, dear lady, it's the light that you're shining in the work that you do that helps people connect to that gravitational pull, that gravitational pull towards the inner knowing and inner working of their own divine light. Ooh.
Yes. Thank you. And the confirmation was one of my spirit animals, which is the raven, literally just walked in front of the sidewalk in front of my screen while you were talking.
Woo!
So
Wow, I got
it was
goosebumps.
And it's interesting, like I said, we're connected because even though that message was also for you, I'm looking at these cards as well, and it's like the relaxation and the family and all that. I felt that as though in the cards as well as what you were talking about. So
And
we,
before it came on, this came through. The foundation becomes the bedrock and which to build your temple on high. And from this place, enlightenment becomes the walls of the structure in which to worship him. And so that's really saying for each of us, the foundation becomes the bedrock. So when we have a good foundation beneath our feet, it becomes the bedrock on which we all build. And so we get
yes.
enlightenment. We seek that enlightenment because
Hmm.
it's one source feeds many. It's one source of light feeds the world, even though the world sees that source of light differently. And so, and that's the way that it is. And that's the way that it's going to be because everybody's at different places of evolutionary growth.
Yes. And like I said, that whole root chakra and the light. Yes. Basking in the sun. Yeah, girl, we love this. Well,
I'm
well,
so
this
glad
was
you had me on today. Thank
I'm
you.
so glad you came on the show. Thank you. So thank you guys for joining for this all intuitive conversation with Patty and I. Feel free to reach out to us. We're here on this LinkedIn platform. And until we meet again, Patty, just hold on for it. We'll do this
Yes.
outro here.
Okay.
And see you guys next time.
Bye, everyone.